You wake up and something just feels off. It's not pain, not panic, not even sadness. Just this quiet emptiness, a still, foggy confusion, like you're walking through your own life as a stranger. The world moves around you. People talk, laugh, chase deadlines, post pictures, and you just exist. Like your body is showing up, but your soul hasn't caught up. You scroll, you sit, you start things you don't finish. You finish things that never mattered. And the only thing you're sure of is that you're not sure of anything at all. And then the questions start. What's wrong with me? Why don't I feel connected to anything? Why am I doing all this if none of it feels like me? If you've ever felt this, you're not broken. You're not lazy. You're just lost. And that matters more than you think. Because lost doesn't mean doomed. Lost doesn't mean failed. Lost means you've outgrown the old map. And now, for the first time, you have to draw your own. See, when we were younger, we were handed maps. Do this, go there, follow these steps, and life will make sense. Graduate. Work hard. Be productive. Smile. Be normal. Be like them. We followed the path, even when it didn't feel right. Because we were told that's what good people do. But what happens when you do all that and it still feels empty? What happens when the promotions, the likes, the degrees, the structure don't connect to anything inside of you? You start to drift, not because you're weak, but because your soul is trying to speak. And drifting is the only way it knows how to pull you off autopilot. Being lost isn't failure. It's feedback. It's the moment when the old strategies stop working. When your mind, your habits, your environment no longer feel like home. And while it feels disorienting, it's also a rare window. A window into realignment, into truth. Most people don't change when they're comfortable. They change when the confusion becomes unbearable. They change when the noise outside no longer silences the noise within. That's what being lost does. It forces you to stop pretending. It shakes you awake, even if you weren't ready to open your eyes. And maybe that's what this season is. Not punishment, not failure, but a private reset, disguised as disconnection. You're not meant to stay here, but you are meant to notice it, to sit with the discomfort, to listen before you escape. Because in the silence, if you really stop running, you'll realize something. You never chose this life, not fully. You inherited routines, fears, expectations, beliefs, and you performed them so well that you started to believe they were yours. But deep down, something never felt aligned. Now that thing is speaking louder. And for once, you're listening. You don't need to have the answers yet. You just need to stop clinging to the wrong questions. Not, what should I do with my life? Start simpler. What am I pretending not to know? What part of me have I been silencing just to fit in? That's where you start. Not with a plan, but with honesty. Because when you're lost, forcing a path too quickly usually leads you in circles. Real direction comes when you stop performing and start listening. When you stop chasing what looks good and start uncovering what feels right. And no, the people around you might not understand this season. They'll call you distant, lazy, unmotivated, because they measure progress in movement, not meaning. But this moment isn't about being fast. It's about being real. You've been running long enough. Now it's time to stop and pay attention to your energy, to your discontent, to the whisper that keeps tugging at you when the world is quiet. That's not a distraction. That's the signal. You want to be found? Then don't look for directions. Look for alignment. Ask yourself, when do I feel most like myself? When I'm not trying to impress? Who am I, really? And if you don't have an answer, that's okay. Because being lost means you're finally asking. It means the mask is slipping. The script is fading. And what's left is raw, honest, and ready. Not ready to impress, ready to rebuild. So no, this isn't the end of your journey. This is the end of who you thought you had to be. and the beginning of who you were always meant to become. You may not feel strong, you may not feel clear, you may not feel anything at all, but this is not the time to numb it. This is not the time to scroll, to drink, to distract. This is the time to stay, to face the fog, to walk anyway. Because every great reinvention starts with uncertainty. Every powerful story starts with confusion. And every version of you that you've admired was once standing where you are right now. No map, no certainty, just a decision. Keep going or stay lost. So, you kept going, not because you had a plan, not because you knew where it would lead, but because something inside you refused to quit, even if everything outside you felt pointless. That's not weakness, that's instinct. It's your inner compass kicking in, long before the destination reveals itself. We were taught that clarity comes first, then action. But it's usually the other way around. Clarity isn't a prerequisite. It's a reward. It's something you earn by walking through the unknown without guarantees. So don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for the fear to leave. It won't. But it doesn't need to. You're not here to feel certain. You're here to move anyway. And maybe that's the point you've missed all along. You've been waiting for answers to give you permission, waiting for a sign to make you feel like it's okay to change. But the truth is, nobody's coming to give you permission. Not your parents, not your partner, not society, not even some future version of you. Because the moment you decide to rebuild, to become someone different, you automatically threaten the systems that benefited from your confusion. They'll want you to stay lost. They'll want you to keep playing small, because a grounded, aligned, self-led person is hard to manipulate, hard to control, hard to predict. And you've been predictable for too long. You always made sense to them. You always stayed polite, digestible, quiet, even when your soul was screaming. But now you've tasted that silence, that fog, that aching realization that this life, this routine, this version doesn't fit. And once you taste that, you can't unknow it. You can fake it for a little while longer. You can patch it up with distractions, but the disconnection always returns. Not to punish you, but to push you. To remind you that you're meant for something else. Not bigger, not louder, just realer. Closer to your own truth. Not theirs, yours. But that shift will come at a cost. People will ask what happened to you. They'll say you've changed. They'll treat your healing like rebellion. Because once you start building your own compass, you stop obeying theirs. You stop performing. You stop tolerating the noise. You stop nodding just to keep the peace. And they'll feel that loss of control, even if you never say a word. So they'll question your growth. They'll poke holes in your boundaries. They'll call your solitude a phase. They'll label your silence as arrogance. But deep down, they know. They know you've touched something they haven't. And that scares them more than they'll admit. Let them misunderstand you. Let them squirm in the absence of the version of you they controlled. Let them call you whatever helps them feel okay with staying the same. You're not here to explain your healing. You're here to complete it. And healing isn't pretty. It's not inspirational quotes and smooth transitions. It's messy. It's lonely. It's full of days where nothing makes sense, where your old life doesn't fit and your new one hasn't formed yet. That's not failure. That's the in-between, the hallway between two lives. And most people turn back in that hallway because they think the discomfort means they're doing something wrong, but it doesn't. It means you're on the edge of something real. So stay with it, not because it's comfortable, but because the alternative is a return to pretending. And you've done enough of that. Every time you silenced yourself to be accepted. Every time you smiled when you wanted to scream. Every time you sacrificed alignment for approval. You built a life that looked fine on the outside and hollow on the inside. Now you're burning that script. You're not walking in circles anymore. You're walking through fire to finally meet the version of you that doesn't need to perform. It won't happen all at once. There's no single moment where everything clicks. Rebuilding is slow, sometimes boring, sometimes brutal. But the beauty is, it's yours. Nobody gets to define it but you. Nobody gets to shape it but you. And every step you take, confused, exhausted, imperfect, is proof that you're finally living from the inside out. That's what alignment looks like. Not perfection, not control, just integrity. Even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs you everything that used to feel safe. You're not lost anymore. You're just early in the process of being found, and maybe that's what you need to hear right now. Not that it's going to be easy, not that all your questions will vanish tomorrow, but that this fog, this painful in-between, means something's changing. And change, real change, never begins with clarity. It begins with the courage to stay when everything in you wants to run. There will come a day when you'll look back on this exact season.
And you won't feel shame?
You'll feel something else. Gratitude, not for the confusion, not for the pain, but for the fact that you didn't numb it, for the fact that you faced the silence and stayed with the ache, for the fact that you made a decision, not to run, but to rebuild. That's what makes this moment powerful. Not the answers you have, but the ones you're willing to seek without faking confidence. Not the clarity, but the honesty. Not the momentum, but the refusal to abandon yourself again. You made space. You made space for something real to emerge. And that's more than most people will ever do. Most people don't slow down until something breaks. They live on autopilot, constantly entertained, constantly distracted, afraid to sit with their own mind. You didn't take that route. You saw the emptiness for what it was, not a flaw in you, but a signal from life. A tap on the shoulder that said, "This isn't working. Try something different." And even though it scared you, you listened. That's the beginning of wisdom. And it's also the beginning of freedom. Not the fake freedom that's sold to you online, vacations, dopamine, applause, but the quiet kind that lives in alignment. The kind that lets you wake up and not feel like you're lying to yourself. The kind that doesn't need to be explained or proved because it's felt. You're closer to that now than you've ever been. And maybe this whole time, you thought you needed a breakthrough. Some big, dramatic, life-changing moment. But most breakthroughs don't come like lightning. They come like erosion. One small decision, one quiet choice. One morning where you get up and keep moving. Not because it's easy, but because it matters. You don't need fire. You need follow-through. That's what's saving you. Not hype, not speed, not perfection, but showing up, confused, tired, quiet, and still choosing to walk with integrity. You've made more progress than you think, and you didn't even have to post about it. The world around you won't notice it at first. They'll see the same face, the same clothes, the same routine, but something underneath is shifting. Your tolerance for nonsense, your ability to say no without guilt, your refusal to chase things that no longer fit. You're not louder, you're clearer. You're not aggressive, you're anchored. You don't argue with chaos, you exit it. And that's why your peace will start to feel dangerous to some people. They'll test it, they'll poke at it, because when someone stops performing, it makes everyone else question their own script. Stay grounded anyway. You didn't rebuild yourself just to return to the stage. Now you walk different. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you finally know what matters. You don't chase validation like you used to. You don't beg for clarity. You don't wait for motivation to act. You understand now that peace isn't found, it's built. And the raw material for it is pain, confusion, solitude, and truth. You've got all of it. So you lay the bricks one at a time. And while they scroll and panic and numb themselves again, you're building something they'll never see coming. A life that doesn't collapse when the applause stops. A mind that doesn't spiral when plans fail. A heart that knows where home is, even in the dark. That's what this was always about. Not success, not recognition, not the illusion of having it all figured out. It was about remembering who you are when the noise fades, when the crowds disappear, when there's nothing left to distract you from yourself. And you remembered. You finally remembered that you don't need to be fixed. You need to be felt. You don't need another roadmap. You need the courage to trust your own steps. And that voice inside, the one you ignored for years, it's not whispering anymore. It's speaking clearly. And you're finally listening. So if you still feel lost, that's okay. Because being lost isn't a problem. It's a signal, a doorway, a breaking of the old so something new can form. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're not too late. You're just early. Early in the chapter that most people are too afraid to write. But you're writing it now. In silence, in grit, in solitude. No shortcuts, no applause, no guarantees. Just one step, then another. And soon, without even realizing it, you won't be lost anymore. You'll be becoming.